eyes. White-hot pain that made my vision blur and my knees buckle. The numbness I'd been ignoring in my right arm for weeks suddenly spread like wildfire, across my shoulder, down my torso, into my leg. I tried to say, "Excuse me," but nothing came out right. Just garbled sounds that didn't match the words forming in my head. My mouth wouldn't cooperate. My tongue felt thick and useless. Emma's face morphed from polite interest to horror. "Are you okay?" I tried to answer. Couldn't. The right side of my body wasn't responding to commands anymore. I reached for the doorframe with my left hand to steady myself, but my legs gave out. I collapsed on the hardwood floor. Heard Emma scream. Saw Kyle drop to his knees beside me, his face pale with panic. "Call 911, he shouted. Emma was already on her phone, voice shaking as she gave the address to the dispatcher. I lay there on that beautiful restored hardwood, unable to move my right side, unable to speak, unable to do anything except think with crystal clarity. This is bad. This is really, really bad. Terror flooded my brain. Not the kind of fear you feel watching a horror movie or riding a roller coaster. The primal kind. The kind that comes when your body stops obeying your commands and you realize you're not in control anymore. I tried to move my right arm. Nothing. Tried to move my right leg. Nothing. Tried to speak. Just garbled nonsense. Kyle was talking to me, saying something about help being on the way, asking me to squeeze his hand. I squeezed with my left. My right hand lay limp and useless on the floor. "Stay with us," Emma kept saying, her voice breaking. "Please stay with us." I remember thinking absurdly, this is so embarrassing. Here I was, a professional who prided myself on being reliable and put together, collapsed on the floor of a property I was trying to sell, drooling and unable to speak. Then I thought, I'm 42 years old. This can't be happening. This happens to old people. People with health problems. Not me. But it was happening. My body was shutting down and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The ambulance arrived in what felt like hours but was probably 7 minutes. Paramedics rushed in with equipment and urgent voices. They asked me questions I couldn't answer. Shined lights in my eyes. Checked my vital signs. "Possible stroke," one of them said. "We need to move fast." They loaded me onto a stretcher. The last thing I saw before they carried me out was Emma crying and Kyle holding her, both of them looking terrified. The ambulance ride is a blur. Sirens screaming. Paramedics talking in clipped medical terminology I didn't understand. Someone started in 4. Someone else was on the radio coordinating with the hospital. I kept trying to move my right side. Kept failing. The terror was overwhelming now, drowning out everything else. They rushed me into Providence Hospital downtown. Bright lights. People in scrubs moving with controlled urgency. Someone wheeling me down hallways at speed. Voices shouting medical terms. Then a doctor's face appeared above me. A woman, maybe 50, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense expression. "Mrs. Brennan, I'm Dr. Patel. You're having a stroke. We need to do emergency surgery to remove the clot. Do you understand?" I tried to nod. Manage something that might have looked like agreement. "You're going to be okay," she said, but her eyes told a different story. "We're going to take care of you." Then everything went black. Later, much later, they told me what happened next. Ischemic stroke. A blood clot had traveled to my brain and blocked blood flow. At 42 years old, with no obvious risk factors, my brain had started dying. They performed emergency surgery to remove the clot. It worked, but my brain had already started swelling dangerously. To save my life, they induced a medical coma. Put me under with drugs and hoped my brain would recover enough to bring me back. I flatlined twice during those first hours. My heart just stopped. They brought me back both times with machines and medication and sheer determination. I was unconscious for 36 hours. A day and a half where I simply didn't exist. No dreams. No awareness. Just nothing. A black void where my life paused while doctors and nurses fought to save it. I have no memory of those hours. Can't tell you what it felt like to be that close to death. Can't describe the sensation of your heart stopping and being forced back to life. But while I was while my body lay in that hospital bed hooked up to machines with my future uncertain and my life hanging by a thread, other things were happening in the world I couldn't see. Things I wouldn't discover until I woke up. Things that would change everything. When I finally came back, it was gradual. Not like waking up from normal sleep. More like surfacing from deep underwater. Slow, disorienting, with pressure in my head and confusion about where I was. The fluorescent lights felt like knives stabbing into my eyes. Everything was too bright, too loud, too much. I had tubes in my arms and something down my throat that made me gag. My mouth tasted like metal and felt dry as sand. A nurse appeared in my field of vision, a young woman with kind eyes and purple scrubs. "Welcome back, Mrs. Brennan," she said softly, smiling with genuine relief. "You gave us quite a scare." I tried to speak. Couldn't. The tube was still in my throat. Panic surged. It's okay," the nurse said quickly, reading my fear. "Let me get the doctor. We're going to remove that tube. You're safe." The next hour was a blur of doctors and procedures. They removed the breathing tube, which was horrible, and checked my vital signs. Asked me questions. Tested my responses. My right side felt heavy and wrong. Like it belonged to someone else. When I tried to move my right arm, it barely responded. My right leg was the same. Dead weight. When I tried to speak, my words came out slurred and garbled. My mouth couldn't form the shapes my brain was commanding. It was like being trapped inside a body that didn't work right anymore. Dr. Patel came in shortly after. She explained everything in careful, simple terms. Stroke. Emergency surgery. Medically induced coma. I'd coded twice, her exact word, coded, which I understood meant my heart had stopped. "You're very lucky to be alive," she said. "The damage could have been much worse." Lucky. That word again. She explained what came next. Physical therapy. Speech therapy. Occupational therapy. Cognitive rest. No stress. No driving for at least 6 weeks. Recovery would be slow, she warned. Months possibly. Maybe longer. I listened to all of this with a strange sense of detachment. Like she was talking about someone else's life. Someone else's broken body. Someone else's ruined plans. Then I thought of work. My clients. The Victorian conversion. The deals I had in progress. My phone. Where was my phone? I looked around frantically with my working left side. Saw it on the bedside table. Reached for it with my left hand, my right still useless, and managed to grab it. The screen lit up with notifications. Emails. Texts. Missed calls. And one message that made my blood run cold despite the warmth of the hospital room. From Caleb. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Where are you?" Not, "The hospital called and I'm on my way." Just a screenshot. Our joint bank account. The one where all my commissions went. The one I'd built over 15 years of brutal work. Balance. $0. Below it, one sentence. "I deserve this after everything I've done for you." I stared at that screen, my still foggy brain struggling to process what I was seeing. $73,612. Gone. Every penny. Every commission. Every sacrifice. Erased. He'd done it while I was unconscious. I was dying. While doctors were shocking my heart back to life. My husband had robbed me. Not in anger during a fight. Not after some betrayal on my part. But while I lay helpless in a hospital bed, unable to defend myself or even know what was happening. The betrayal was so cold. So calculated. So perfectly timed to my moment of maximum weakness. I should have cried. Should have screamed. Should have thrown the phone across the room. Instead, I felt something else. Something cold and sharp clicking into place deep inside me. My left hand was trembling as I pulled up the keyboard. Typed one character. Hit send. A thumbs up emoji. That was all. No words. No questions. No accusations. Just that one little symbol. Caleb probably thought it meant I was too weak to fight. Too damaged to care. Maybe even too brain injured to understand what he'd done. He thought wrong. That thumbs up wasn't acceptance. It wasn't surrender. It was a declaration. War had just been declared. And I was going to win. I stared at that thumbs up emoji on my phone screen for a long time after I sent it. Watched the little delivered notification appear underneath. Then read. Caleb was seeing it right now. Probably confused. Maybe relieved. Definitely not understanding what it actually meant. Good. A nurse came in to check my vitals. Asked how I was feeling. I told her fine, which was a lie. My head pounded. My right side felt like dead weight. Every word I spoke came out slightly wrong, my mouth struggling to form sounds my brain commanded. But I was alive. And I was planning. The next 2 days in the hospital passed in a haze of physical therapy sessions, speech exercises, and doctor consultations. They had me squeeze stress balls with my weak right hand. Practice walking with a cane. Repeat simple phrases until my words came out clearer. I cooperated with everything. Smiled at the nurses. Thanked the doctors. Pretended to be a grateful patient focused on recovery. But my mind was somewhere else entirely. running through finances, replaying conversations, building a strategy. On the morning of my discharge, Dr. Patel came in with a clipboard and a concerned expression. "Mrs. Brennan, you're making remarkable progress," she said. "But I need you to understand how serious this is. You had a major stroke. Your brain needs time to heal. That means rest. No stress. No work for at least 6 weeks." "I understand," I said, my words still slightly slurred but functional. "You'll need someone at home to help you," she continued. "At least for the first week or two. Simple tasks are going to be challenging. Cooking, cleaning, even getting dressed. Is your husband able to take time off work to care for you?" Something cold settled in my chest. "Yes," I lied. "He's already arranged it." Dr. Patel smiled with relief. "Good. That's important. You shouldn't be alone." She handed me a stack of discharge papers and prescriptions. "These are your medications. Anti-clotting agents, blood pressure management. Take them exactly as prescribed. And this," she handed me a card, "is information about support groups for stroke survivors. I highly recommend attending once you're feeling stronger." I took everything with my left hand, my right still too weak to be useful. "Thank you." "Someone picking you up?" "My husband," I said smoothly. "He should be here soon." Another lie. Easier than the first. Dr. Patel left. A nurse brought me my clothes, the ones I'd been wearing during the property showing, now cleaned and folded. Getting dressed was humiliating. I couldn't button my shirt with one working hand. Couldn't tie my shoes. The nurse helped without comment, professional and kind. They brought me a cane. Standard issue hospital cane, aluminum with a rubber grip. I hated it immediately. Hated what it represented. But I needed it. My right leg wasn't strong enough to support my full weight yet. "Your husband here?" the nurse asked, checking her watch. "He's just parking," I said. "I'll meet him downstairs." She looked uncertain but nodded. "Hey, take care of yourself, Mrs. Brennan." The moment she left, I grabbed my phone with my left hand and called the one person I trusted completely. Riley picked up on the second ring. "Ella. I need a favor," I said quietly, watching the door. "Anything." No hesitation. "That's Riley. I need a place to stay. And I need you not to tell Caleb I'm out." Silence. Then, "He doesn't know you're being discharged?" "Oh, he knows I survived," I said, my voice flat. "He just doesn't know I'm not coming home." Another pause. When Riley spoke again, her voice had changed. Colder. Sharper. "What did he do?" "Cleaned out our savings while I was unconscious. 73,000. I heard her inhale sharply. Then, "I'm on my way. 20 minutes. Where should I pick you up?" "Side entrance. Near the emergency department." "I'll be there in 15. She hung up. I gathered my things, phone, wallet, the discharge papers, and made my way slowly down the hallway with my cane. Each step was an effort. My right leg dragged slightly. I had to focus on every movement. The hospital was busy. Visitors coming and going. Staff rushing between rooms. Nobody paid attention to one more patient leaving. I took the elevator down to the ground floor and found my way to the side entrance Riley had mentioned. Sat on a bench and waited, my cane propped beside me. 13 minutes later, Riley's black Subaru pulled up. He got out quickly, came around to help me. My sister is 3 years older than me. Looks it too, sharp features, gray threading through her dark hair, lines around her eyes from years of reading contracts. She's a tax attorney. Brilliant. Ruthless when she needs to be. Divorced twice, both times on her terms. She understands betrayal intimately. Riley looked at me, really looked, and I saw her face tighten with barely controlled fury. But she didn't say anything. Just helped me into the passenger seat, loaded my things in the back and got behind the wheel. We didn't speak until we were out of the hospital parking lot and on the road. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. The property showing. The stroke. The surgery. Waking up to that text message. The empty account. The thumbs up emoji I'd sent. Riley didn't interrupt. Didn't gasp or curse or ask clarifying questions. Just listened with the absolute focus of someone cataloging evidence for a case. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said very calmly, "We're going to destroy him." Not, "Are you sure?" Not, "Maybe there's an explanation." Not, "Let's think about this." Just, "We're going to destroy him." I felt something unknot in my chest. "Yeah," I said. "We are." Riley's apartment is in Northwest Portland, A second-floor unit in a converted industrial building. Exposed brick, high ceilings, minimalist furniture. She helped me up the stairs, humiliating, needing help with stairs, and got me settled in her guest room. Plain walls. Queen bed. Desk in the corner. Nothing fancy, but it was clean and quiet and safe. Rest, Riley said. I need to make some calls. I lay down on the bed, exhausted from the short journey. My body was weak in ways I'd never experienced. Simple movements required concentration. But my mind was sharp. Clearer than it had been in months. Maybe years. I stared at the ceiling and replayed 12 years of marriage. Looked for the signs I'd missed. The patterns I'd ignored. Caleb's sudden interest in our finances 3 years ago. How he'd started asking questions about my accounts, my investments, my retirement funds. I'd thought he was finally taking an interest in our future. Now I saw it differently. He'd been mapping territory. Figuring out what was accessible and what wasn't. His insistence that I add him to my investment accounts, in case something happens. For security, he'd said. So he could handle things if I was ever incapacitated. I'd refused. Those accounts were mine. Built before marriage. Kept separate intentionally. He'd seemed hurt but dropped it. Now I understood. That had been a test. Seeing how far he could push. And 6 months ago his suggestion that we refinance my condo. Free up equity for renovations, he'd said. The kitchen needed updating. The bathroom could use work. I'd said no. The condo was mine. Bought before we married. Paid for with my money. I wasn't refinancing it. He'd gotten angry. Said I didn't trust him. That I treated our marriage like a business transaction instead of a partnership. We'd fought. He'd sulked for days. Eventually I'd apologized just to end the tension. Now I saw that too for what it was. Another test. Another boundary check. He'd been planning this. Maybe for months. Maybe longer. And the moment I collapsed during that property showing, the moment I became vulnerable and helpless, he'd executed his plan. That first night at Riley's I didn't sleep. Couldn't. My body was exhausted but my mind wouldn't stop. I lay in that guest bed using my left hand to scroll through old text messages, old emails, looking for evidence of what I'd missed. Riley came in around midnight with chamomile tea. You should sleep, she said. Can't. She sat on the edge of the bed. Tomorrow we start building your case. But tonight you need rest. He's been planning this, I said. For months. Maybe years. I keep thinking, how did I not see it? Because you trusted him, Riley said simply. That's not a character flaw, Ella. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. I was an idiot. No. He was a thief. There's a difference. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another text from Caleb. Where are you? The hospital said you were discharged. I showed Riley. She read it and shook her head. Don't respond, she said. Let him panic. Another buzz. Oh, I'm worried. Please call me. Then another. This is ridiculous. We need to talk about this. I watched them accumulate. Watched his tone shift from confused to concerned to frustrated. He doesn't know where I am, I said. Good. Keep it that way. Another text. You can't just disappear. I have rights too. Riley read that one and actually laughed. Cold and sharp. Rights. He stole $73,000 while you were dying and he's talking about rights. She stood up. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we figure out exactly how much damage he's done. Then we figure out how to return the favor. She left, closing the door quietly behind her. I lay there in the dark, my phone buzzing periodically with new messages from Caleb that I didn't read. For the first time since the stroke, I felt something other than fear or pain or exhaustion. I felt focused. Caleb had taken advantage of my vulnerability. Thought I'd be too weak or too damaged or too grateful to be alive to fight back. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. The next morning, Riley left early for her office. Said she had some calls to make, some favors to collect. I spent the morning doing the physical therapy exercises the hospital had given me, squeezing a stress ball with my weak right hand, practicing balance by standing on one foot, walking the length of Riley's apartment with my cane, trying to build strength back into my right leg. Every movement was exhausting. Every small task a reminder of what the stroke had taken from me. But I kept going. Because if I was going to fight Caleb, I needed to be strong enough to do it. Around noon, I heard Riley's key in the lock. She came through the door carrying a banker's box, the kind offices use for storing files. It looked ordinary enough, but something about the way she was holding it made my stomach tighten. "You're not going to like this," she said, setting the box on the dining table between us. I sat down slowly, my right leg still unsteady. "Show me." Riley opened the box and started pulling out papers. Bank statements, credit reports, transaction histories, business filings. Page after page of financial documents printed on standard office paper. "I called in some favors," Riley said, spreading everything out methodically. "Tax attorneys have connections at banks, credit bureaus, business registration offices." I pulled everything I could find with Caleb's name on it. She arranged the papers into separate piles, creating a timeline. I watched her work with that precise attorney focus, organizing chaos into evidence. "This," she said, tapping a document, "is a business account opened 14 months ago. Brennan Creative Studios. Listed owners are Caleb Brennan and Ella Brennan." I leaned forward, reading the paperwork. "I never signed this." "I know. That's fraud. He opened it using your information without consent." Riley pulled out a highlighter and marked several lines. "And look at these transactions." I followed her finger across the page. Transfers from an account I recognized, our joint savings, the one he'd eventually emptied, into this business account. Small amounts. 3,000 here. 5,000 there. Never more than 9,000 at once. Always under 10,000, I said slowly. "Exactly. Banks have to report transactions over $10,000 to federal authorities." He knew that. He was being careful. Staying just under the reporting threshold. Riley pulled out more statements, all marked with similar highlighted transactions. "This has been going on for over a year." My hands started shaking. "How much total?" Riley met my eyes. "From what I can track, almost $89,000. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table with my left hand to steady myself. 89,000. On top of the 73 he'd stolen while I was unconscious. Over $160,000 total. "He's been planning this for over a year," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "At least. Probably longer." Riley pulled out another document. "It gets worse." I almost laughed. How could it possibly get worse? She handed me a paper I recognized immediately. A power of attorney form. The one I'd signed last year after the ovarian cyst scare, when I was afraid I might need emergency surgery. Except this wasn't the version I remembered. "This has been amended," Riley said quietly. "See here? Financial authority. Investment accounts. Real estate decisions. The version you signed was medical only. This one gives him control over everything." I stared at my signature at the bottom of the page. Looked right. The loops and curves matched my handwriting perfectly. "I didn't sign this version," I said. "I know. I compared it to documents I personally witnessed you sign. Contracts from when I helped you buy that investment property 3 years ago. It's a forgery. A really good one, but still a forgery." Riley spread out more papers. Bank statements from my investment portfolio. A line of credit I'd never authorized. "He used that forged POA to take out $70,000 against your investments," she explained. "Cash withdrawals over the past 6 months. Small amounts like everything else. Always staying under the radar." I felt sick. Physically sick. My stomach churned and my head pounded, and for a moment I thought I might actually throw up right there at Riley's dining table. "He practiced my signature," I said. The realization was somehow worse than everything else. "He sat somewhere, maybe in our apartment while I was at work, and practiced writing my name until he could do it perfectly." Yes. This wasn't impulse. This wasn't panic when I had the stroke. He's been systematically robbing me for over a year. Yes. I looked at all the papers spread across the table. The evidence of months of planning. The careful amounts always just under reporting thresholds. The forged documents. The fake business account. Every "I love you" had been a lie. Every dinner he made while I worked late. Every supportive comment about my career. All of it performance. Theater. A distraction while he plotted my financial destruction. "What do we do with this?" I asked. Riley started gathering the papers back into organized piles. "First we make copies. Multiple copies. Then we take it to a lawyer. A good one who specializes in financial fraud and family law. And we bury him." My phone buzzed. Another text from Caleb. I'd been ignoring them for 3 days now. They kept coming. "Elle, please. We need to talk." I didn't even look at it. Just turned the phone face down on the table. "Let me see those," Riley said, gesturing to my phone. I unlocked it and handed it over. She scrolled through the messages Caleb had been sending, her expression getting colder with each one. He's panicking, she said. Good. Let him panic. She handed the phone back. Don't respond. Not yet. Let him wonder where you are, what you know, what you're planning. That afternoon, while Riley was photocopying everything at her office, I sat in her guest room and let myself feel it. The betrayal. The violation. The cold calculation of what Caleb had done. He'd married me knowing I made good money. Positioned himself as supportive husband while I built my career. Then spent years systematically stealing from me, forging my signature, creating fake accounts in my name. And the moment I became vulnerable, the moment I collapsed and ended up in a hospital fighting for my life, he'd grabbed everything he could and run. He'd literally bet on me dying or being too brain damaged to fight back. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Caleb. Sophie, my former assistant, saw Caleb at Stumptown this morning. He was with a woman. Very cozy. Thought you should know. I stared at that message for a long moment. Part of me didn't want to know. Didn't want confirmation of what I already suspected. But I needed to see. Can you send a picture if you see them again? I typed back. Sophie responded immediately. Already took one. Sending now. The image loaded slowly. When it finally appeared, I felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Caleb sat in a coffee shop booth across from a young woman. Brunette, mid-20s, pretty in that natural Portland way. His hand rested on her thigh. She was laughing, leaning forward, completely comfortable with his touch. The intimacy was unmistakable. I didn't recognize her. Forwarded the photo to Riley without comment. Her response came within minutes. Running reverse image search. Give me an hour. I lay back on the guest bed, staring at the ceiling. The image burned into my mind. Of course there was another woman. Of course. That's what this was really about. Not just money. Not just theft. But an exit strategy. A new life with someone younger, funded entirely by my work. 90 minutes later, Riley called me into her home office. She had her laptop open, a full profile displayed on the screen. Vanessa Pruitt, Riley said. 26 years old. Works as a gallery coordinator at Atelier Northwest. The name clicked. That's where Caleb had his last gallery showing. 8 months ago. Exactly. Riley pulled up more information. Social media profiles. Employment history. And then something that made my blood run cold. Venmo transactions. He's been paying her rent, Riley said quietly. $1,500 a month for the past 9 months. Look at the memo lines. Rent. Apartment. He wasn't even trying to hide it. With my money, I said. With your money. Riley pulled up Vanessa's Instagram. Public profile. Hundreds of photos documenting the life of a 20-something in Portland. Coffee shops. Art galleries. Hiking trails. Wine bars. And in the background of those photos, if you looked carefully, was Caleb. A figure barely visible in a shot from Mount Tabor 3 months ago. A reflection in a mirror during a gallery opening. A man's hand, wearing that distinctive turquoise ring Caleb always wore, holding a wine glass at a restaurant. They'd been hiding in plain sight. Documenting their relationship for anyone who bothered to look closely enough. Riley scrolled further. Weekend trips to Cannon Beach. Seattle. A long weekend in San Francisco 6 weeks ago. Right when Caleb had told me he was going on an inspiration retreat alone. Then Riley stopped on one particular photo. Posted 2 weeks ago. Vanessa holding up a set of keys, huge smile on her face, caption reading, New chapter. Downtown loft, here I come. The location tag showed a luxury building in the Pearl District. I clicked through to the building's website. Studios starting at $2,800. 1 bedrooms at $3,400. Gallery coordinators don't make that kind of money, Riley said. No, I agreed. They don't. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us understanding what this meant. He was planning to leave you, Riley said finally. Take the money, move in with her, start fresh. The stroke interrupted his timeline, I said, the pieces finally clicking into place. When I collapsed, he panicked. Thought I might die or be permanently disabled. So he grabbed everything he could while I was unconscious. But you survived. But I survived, I repeated. And now he's stuck. Can't move forward with Vanessa without money. Can't explain where the money went. Can't find me to manipulate me into forgiving him. Riley turned to look at me. What do you want to do? I looked at the evidence spread across her desk. The bank statements. The forged documents. The photos of Caleb and Vanessa together. A year of planning. A year of lies. A year of theft. I want him to regret every single thing he took from me, I said. Riley smiled. Cold and sharp and full of promise. Then let's get started. Riley made the call the next morning while I was doing my physical therapy exercises in her living room. I heard her voice from her office, professional and clipped, asking someone for a reference, a recommendation, someone who specialized in financial fraud within family law. When she came out, she had a name written on a post-it note. Martin Okoye, she said. Family law attorney. Has a reputation for going after financial abusers. Doesn't lose often. When can we meet him? Tomorrow. He's making room in his schedule. Martin's office was in a modest building downtown, nothing fancy. No marble lobby or designer furniture. Just a functional space with dated carpet and fluorescent lighting. I appreciated that. Meant he spent money on actual legal work instead of impressing clients. The receptionist led us to a small conference room. Martin came in 2 minutes later. Late 40s, Nigerian accent still present despite probably decades in the US. Built solid like someone who'd played college football and stayed in shape. He shook my hand firmly, then Riley's. Didn't comment on my cane or the way my right hand trembled slightly. Just got straight to business. Mrs. Brennan, he said, sitting across from us with the folder Riley had sent ahead. I've reviewed the preliminary documents your sister provided. Before we go further, I need to understand what you want out of this. Everything, I said simply. I want everything he took. And I want him to face consequences. Martin nodded, opening the folder. Your husband committed several felonies. Identity fraud. Opening accounts in your name without authorization. Forgery, that amended power of attorney. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult during a medical crisis. The dollar amounts involved make this serious. We can pursue criminal charges in addition to divorce proceedings. What happens if we do both at once? I asked. Gets complicated. Criminal charges can actually slow down the divorce. Defense attorneys will advise their clients not to cooperate with discovery, not to provide financial documents, plead the fifth. Makes it harder to get your assets back quickly. I thought about that. So divorce first. Get my money back. Then criminal charges. Martin raised an eyebrow. Most people want the criminal case first. Want to see justice done. I want my life back first, I said. Justice can wait a few months. Riley smiled beside me. He understood. Martin studied me for a moment. Then he smiled too. Mrs. Brennan, I think we're going to work very well together. We spent the next 2 hours going through everything. Martin took notes in a leather portfolio, asking sharp questions, circling back to details that seemed minor but apparently weren't. The timing matters, he explained. The fact that he emptied the joint account while you were unconscious. That's not just morally reprehensible, it's legally significant. Financial exploitation during medical incapacity. Judges take that very seriously. Good, I said. The forged power of attorney is another major piece. That's identity fraud. Using it to access your investment accounts makes it wire fraud if any transactions cross state lines, which I'm betting they did. Riley pulled out more documents. These are the transactions from the business account he opened in her name. Brennan Creative Studios. Almost 90,000 transferred over 14 months. Martin whistled low. Always under 10,000 at a time. He knew about reporting thresholds. This was planned. That's what we thought, Riley said. Martin looked at me. How much do you know about his current financial situation? Not much. He's been texting me but I haven't responded. Good. Keep it that way. All communication goes through me from now on. He made another note. We'll file this week. Request full financial disclosure from him, freeze on all joint assets and temporary exclusive use of the marital residence. It's not marital, I said. I bought it before we married. It's only in my name. Even better. Makes that part simple. Martin closed the folder. One more thing. Are you prepared for this to get ugly? Because it will. When we file with all this evidence, when we request criminal investigation, he's going to fight back. Hard. I thought about that text message. That screenshot of the empty account. The thumbs up emoji I'd sent. Let him fight, I said. I'm ready. We filed for divorce 3 days later. Martin submitted a petition citing irreconcilable differences and requesting full return of all fraudulently obtained funds, plus sole possession of my apartment. Attached were copies of everything: bank statements, the forged POA, the business account he'd opened in my name, transaction histories showing systematic theft over 14 months. It was thorough, damning, irrefutable. Caleb had 5 days to respond. His answer came through a lawyer named Doug Finch, whose office was in a strip mall next to a tax preparation service and a nail salon. Riley looked him up, specialized in DUIs and small claims disputes. Not exactly equipped for complex financial fraud cases. Doug's response was almost laughable. He filed a counterpetition requesting a 50-50 split of all assets, including my apartment and investment accounts. The justification: Caleb had contributed equally to the marriage as household manager and emotional support provider. Martin showed me the filing in his office. Actually laughed when he read that part aloud. He stole over $160,000 and his lawyer is claiming homemaker equity, Martin said. This won't work, but it'll drag the process out while they scramble for a better strategy. How long? I asked. Couple months probably. Discovery, depositions, financial disclosures. Maybe a settlement conference before we get to actual trial. Good, I said. Let it drag. Martin looked confused. Most clients want this over quickly. I want him to make mistakes, I said. Desperate people do stupid things. Understanding dawned on Martin's face. You want to see what else he's hiding. Exactly. While the legal machinery ground forward, Riley was working another angle. She'd been tracking Caleb's digital footprint, social media, tagged locations, Venmo transactions, building a complete picture of his double life. One evening she came home with her laptop and a grim expression. Found something else, she said, pulling up a bank statement I didn't recognize. Personal checking account at a bank I'd never used. Caleb's name only. Opened 18 months ago. Current balance: $31,847. Where did this come from? I asked. Riley highlighted transactions. Small transfers from the business account. Cash deposits. And look at the timing. He pulled up my commission records from work. Lined them up next to Caleb's deposit history. The pattern was obvious. Every time I closed a major deal, every time a big commission hit our joint account, Caleb would move money. First to the fraudulent business account, then in smaller chunks to the secret personal account. Building his escape fund. Dollar by dollar. My dollars. He's been planning this since before he opened the business account, I said slowly. At least 18 months. Probably longer. This was always the plan. Steal enough, move it somewhere you couldn't track it, then leave. Riley scrolled through more transactions. Regular payments to Vanessa. Payments to a moving company 2 weeks before my stroke. Even a deposit that lined up exactly with my biggest commission of the year. A waterfront development deal I'd closed 3 months ago. I'd worked 12-hour days for 6 weeks to close that deal. Celebrated with Caleb over dinner when the commission finally came through. He'd seemed genuinely happy for me. And 2 days later he transferred $15,000 of it to his secret account. We need to freeze this too, I said. Martin filed an emergency motion the next morning. Requested the court freeze all accounts connected to either party pending full financial investigation. Provided evidence of the hidden account, the systematic transfers, the pattern of theft. The judge granted it that afternoon. Every account with Caleb's name was locked. He couldn't access the money he'd stolen. Couldn't withdraw cash. Couldn't pay bills. Couldn't finance his new life with Vanessa. I found out how completely trapped he was 2 days later when Sophie texted me. Just saw Caleb at Fred Meyer. His card got declined at checkout. He looked like he was going to cry. I showed Riley. She confirmed it through one of her banking contacts. Every account was frozen solid. No access. No exceptions. My phone started buzzing almost immediately after that. Caleb's text had been sporadic before. Now they came in waves. Oh, this is insane. I can't even buy groceries. We need to look. This is affecting both of us. You're destroying everything out of spite. I made a mistake, but this is cruel. I saved every message. Didn't respond to any of them. Then Riley's phone rang. Unknown number. She put it on speaker. Hello. Riley answered. Is this Riley Brennan? A young woman's voice. Shaking. Verging on tears. Who's asking? My name is Vanessa. I don't know who else to call. Caleb said you're his wife's sister. Please, I need help. Riley's expression went cold. I'm listening. Caleb told me his accounts got frozen because of his wife. He can't pay my rent. I'm going to get evicted. I didn't know he said they were separated. He said the divorce was almost final. I didn't know he was stealing from her. The desperation in her voice was real. He probably really didn't know. Probably believed every lie Caleb told her. Vanessa, Riley said, her voice like ice, Caleb is a liar and a thief. Whatever he told you about his marriage, about being separated, about his wife being cruel. All fiction. He stole over $160,000 from my sister while she was unconscious in a hospital bed. Used that money to pay your rent, buy you things, plan a future with you. Silence on the other end. If you're smart, Riley continued, you'll distance yourself from him immediately. Before you become an accessory to fraud. Before your name ends up in legal documents as a co-conspirator. Do you understand? I didn't know, Vanessa whispered. I swear I didn't know. Then get away from him. No. Before this gets worse. Riley hung up. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I started laughing. Couldn't help it. The sound came out harsh and cold but felt good. He can't pay her rent, I said. He's trapped. No money. No escape. No girlfriend. And it's only going to get worse, Riley said. Wait until discovery starts. Wait until he has to produce every financial document, explain every transaction, justify every lie. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Caleb. Please, Ella. Just talk to me. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I turned the phone face down without reading the rest. He's panicking, I said. Good, Riley replied. Let him panic. Let him scramble. Let him realize exactly how badly he messed up. For the first time since the stroke, since waking up to that empty account and that cold text message, I felt something close to satisfaction. Caleb had taken advantage of my vulnerability. Thought I'd be too weak or too damaged or too grateful to be alive to fight back. He was learning exactly how wrong he'd been. And we were just getting started. 6 weeks after the stroke, we had our first major court hearing. By then I'd regained most of my physical strength. My speech was back to normal. No more slurring, no more struggling to find words. The tremor in my right hand only showed up when I was exhausted. I could walk without the cane if I concentrated, but Martin had been clear about strategy. Bring the cane, he'd said during our prep session the day before. You don't have to lean on it, but carry it. Visual reminder of what happened to you. Of what he did while you were vulnerable. I understood. This wasn't just about facts and documents. It was about optics. About making sure the judge saw me as a victim who'd fought back, not just another angry spouse in a contentious divorce. That morning, I stood in front of Riley's bathroom mirror and dressed carefully. Navy blue suit. The same one I'd worn to close a $2 million waterfront development deal the year before. Back then, it had been armor against difficult clients and tough negotiations. Now it was armor against my husband. I pulled my hair back in a neat bun. Minimal makeup. Small pearl earrings my mother had given me years ago. Professional. Put together. Sympathetic but strong. Riley appeared in the doorway behind me, already dressed in her own court-appropriate outfit. Gray pantsuit, sensible heels. You look good, she said. I look like I'm going into battle. You are. We drove to the courthouse in silence. Portland morning traffic was its usual mess. Rain-slicked streets, brake lights, the smell of coffee from a drive-thru on every corner. Riley kept glancing at me like she wanted to say something encouraging but couldn't find the right words. In the parking garage she finally spoke. You ready? I picked up my cane from the back seat. Let's end this. The courthouse was downtown, an older building with marble floors and high ceilings that made every sound echo. We went through security, found the right courtroom and sat on a bench outside to wait. Martin showed up 10 minutes later, briefcase in hand, looking calm and professional. Judge Torres is fair, he said, sitting beside us. Doesn't tolerate games. Doesn't like people who take advantage of vulnerable spouses. This should go well. Should, I repeated. Will, Martin corrected. The evidence is overwhelming. But let me do the talking. Answer questions directly if the judge asks you something, but don't volunteer information. And whatever you do, don't react to anything Caleb or his lawyer says. I nodded. At exactly 10 a.m. the bailiff called us in. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. maybe 30 feet across, with wooden benches that looked like church pews and fluorescent lighting that made everything feel stark and official. Judge Angela Torres was already at the bench. A woman in her 50s with short gray hair and reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up as we entered, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. Caleb was already there, sitting at the opposite table with Doug Finch. He looked terrible. Like he hadn't slept in days. Wearing jeans and a blazer that didn't quite match, his hair uncombed, dark circles under his eyes. He looked at me when I walked in. I didn't look back. Just walked to our table with my cane clicking on the floor, sat down and kept my eyes forward. Judge Torres shuffled papers for a moment. Then she spoke. This is a hearing regarding the petition for divorce filed by Ella Brennan against Caleb Brennan, with motions for asset freeze, exclusive possession of marital residence, and return of fraudulently obtained funds. She looked up. I've reviewed the filings from both parties. Mr. Finch, your client withdrew $73,612 from joint accounts while Mrs. Brennan was hospitalized for a life-threatening stroke. Is that correct? Doug Finch stood. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, wearing a suit that looked off the rack and slightly too big. Your Honor, my client exercised his legal right to access jointly held funds. Furthermore, Mrs. Brennan had exhibited financially controlling behavior throughout the marriage, and my client was acting to protect himself from potential. Protect himself from what, exactly? Judge Torres interrupted. From a woman having a stroke? Doug stammered. From potential abandonment, Your Honor. Mrs. Brennan had recently refused to refinance their marital home, which my client interpreted as preparation for divorce. Their home. Martin stood smoothly. Your Honor, if I may. The property in question is not a marital asset. Mrs. Brennan purchased that condominium before the marriage, has paid the mortgage exclusively from premarital accounts, and Mr. Brennan has no legal claim to it whatsoever. Judge Torres turned her attention to Caleb. Mr. Brennan, were you aware your wife was in the hospital when you withdrew these funds? Caleb whispered something to Doug. Doug leaned down, listened, then straightened. Yes, Your Honor, but my client was under extreme emotional stress. I didn't ask about his emotional state, Judge Torres said. I asked if he knew she was in the hospital. She looked directly at Caleb. Mr. Brennan, answer the question yourself, please. Caleb stood slowly. Yes, Your Honor. Did you visit your wife in the hospital? Silence. Judge Torres repeated the question, slower this time. Mr. Brennan, did you visit your wife while she was hospitalized for a stroke that nearly killed her? No, Your Honor. But you did access her bank accounts during that time? Yes. Judge Torres removed her glasses and set them on the bench. Looked at Caleb with an expression that could only be described as contempt. Let me make sure I understand the timeline here. Your wife of 12 years collapsed during a property showing. Was airlifted to the hospital. Underwent emergency brain surgery. Was placed in a medically induced coma. And during this time you didn't visit her. Didn't check on her condition. But you did withdraw over $70,000 from your joint accounts while she was unconscious and unable to consent or even be aware of the transaction. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact that sounded damning when said out loud in a courtroom. Your Honor, if I may, Doug tried to interject. Judge Torres held up her hand. You may not. I'm still trying to understand how your client's attorney expects me to believe this was anything other than financial exploitation of a medically vulnerable spouse. She put her glasses back on and looked at the documents in front of her. I'm ordering an immediate freeze on all accounts connected to either party pending further investigation and discovery. This includes the joint savings account, the business account opened in Mrs. Brennan's name without her authorization, and any personal accounts held by Mr. Brennan. Doug started to object. Judge Torres cut him off with a look. Additionally, Mrs. Brennan is granted temporary exclusive possession of the marital residence. Mr. Brennan, you have 72 hours to remove your personal belongings. A police escort can be arranged if necessary. Your Honor, that's my client's home, Doug protested. No, counselor. It's Mrs. Brennan's home. She purchased it before the marriage. It's titled in her name only. Your client has been living there as a guest, essentially. That guest status is now revoked. Judge Torres made a note on her paperwork. Furthermore, I'm ordering full financial disclosure from both parties. Bank statements, investment accounts, credit cards, loan documents. Everything. I want a complete picture of the marital finances before we proceed. She looked at Caleb again. And Mr. Brennan, I strongly suggest you cooperate fully. Withdrawing tens of thousands of dollars while your spouse is medically incapacitated strikes me as unconscionable. Your client is fortunate I'm not recommending criminal charges at this time. She banged her gavel once. Next hearing in 30 days. Discovery to be completed before then. We're adjourned. Everyone stood as Judge Torres left through the door behind the bench. The moment she was gone, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Martin gathered his papers, looking satisfied. That went exactly as well as I'd hoped. Across the aisle, Doug was talking urgently to Caleb in a low voice. Caleb's face was pale, his hands shaking. As we filed out, he tried to catch my eye. Tried to approach. I walked past him without acknowledgement. My cane clicked on the marble floor. Riley walked beside me, her hand on my elbow, protective. Outside the courtroom, in the echoing hallway with its high ceilings and afternoon light coming through tall windows, Martin turned to us. Judge Torres clearly sees through his story, he said. The fact that he didn't visit you in the hospital but did access your bank accounts. That's damning. And the tone she used? She's already made up her mind about his character. What happens now? I asked. Discovery. We get access to everything. All his accounts, all his transactions, all his communications. And he has to provide it. If he refuses or hides anything, he's in contempt of court. Riley smiled. He's trapped. Completely, Martin agreed. He can't access the stolen money. Can't hide it. Can't move